Welcome to the Tyler Werner Show, discussing all the latest in Philadelphia sports.
Sam Bradford gets traded to the Minnesota Vikings. The Philadelphia Eagles are to start Carson Wentz Week 1. Did we just fast forward to the 2017 NFL season for this Philadelphia Eagles team? Because we all thought Sam Bradford was going to be, the starter for the season, maybe Chase Daniels second stringer. But that has been bypassed with Sam Bradford getting traded to the Vikings. Eagles get back a first-round pick in next year's draft and a fourth rounder the next year. Hats off to Howie Roseman. I was saying they should have traded him away when Sam Bradford was holding out. He didn't want to be here, but okay, it happens now. Okay, good deal.
And now, here's Tyler Werner.
And yes, a great Monday, everybody. The day after the debut of Carson Wentz. First game under Doug Peterson, head coaching this football team, ushering in the Carson Wentz / Doug Peterson era here in the city of brotherly love. And, I mean, what a debut. I mean, this is going to come right out of the gate here. I'm not going to get too carried away. I'm not trying to put cold water over everything. I mean, it was one game. It was, but look at it. You can go so many directions with this, but yeah, I mean, it was against the Cleveland Browns, who are lucky if they finish, 4-12, and no worse than that. They're a mess, and they're obviously rebuilding, and maybe they think that they can bring Robert Griffin III back to his rookie season stature. But Carson Wentz. I mean, that's the story in the Delaware Valley. Carson Wentz. It all traces back to, sort of. I mean, at least this day, this game, which I'm glad. I'm very happy with what has happened, what has transpired in recent weeks, as the intro kind of hints at. And I also just want to make a note. There was supposed to be an episode of the Tyler Werner Show last week, and unfortunately it was recorded, but it had some kind of issue.
Oh no!
And unfortunately, I talked about the trade and ran down the Eagles' schedule, and unfortunately, after the show was done, and it was one of these things where it's like, all right, everything was set, but apparently the audio of the show never saved, and I was not too happy about it.
I am pissed off.
But for the sake of, I will go down the schedule, at least the rest of it. I mean, for the record, I had the Eagles winning this game against the Cleveland Browns, as I'm sure many of us did. I mean, this is, it's the Cleveland Browns. They're a mess. The beginning of another rebuilding cycle, essentially, which, they never seem to build and go anywhere for the most part in the last few decades. But we'll go down. I mean, I'll go down what my original, what my schedule was, what I had win-loss wise for the Eagles. And I'll be honest about it too. I had them 6-10 when I went down the schedule, and I will basically reiterate what was supposed to be in the last edition of the Tyler Werner Show that never was. Unfortunate, but nevertheless, it's week 1. We just said, week 1 basically in the books here in the NFL, and the way Carson Wentz looked, the way the Eagles performed, it kind of takes that away when you put together a big podcast, and then it never even saves, and you just basically kind of wasted your time talking to yourself. And I guess if anything, it was practice. But regardless, week 1 in the books. And as far as you look around the NFL, there were no blowouts in this week 1, with the exception of the Pittsburgh Steelers game just taking care of business against the Washington Redskins. So,
You like that?
yeah,
You like that?
yeah, you like that, Kirk Cousins? You like that, Washington Redskins fans? Come on, Steelers. We all saw that coming. But anyhow, other than that, the Eagles were like the only team that really delivered a blowout. And I mean, it was against the Browns. But in all honesty, I didn't expect them to win as decisively as they did. I mean, I expected the defense to take care of business, and for the most part, they did. They held the Browns to 10 points, which, yeah, I mean, that's what I would hope they wouldn't allow much more than that. But the Eagles put up 29, something that Chip Kelly had a hell of a time doing last season for whatever reason.
Was that like a wise-ass comment?
Or reasons, I should say, because it was a combination of reasons. Carson Wentz starts this game off. Incredible drive, to start the game off. Machine-like. It was a drive that, many of us are never going to forget. Ends with a touchdown. I mean, the only incompletion, a drop ball. But besides that, I mean, a flawless start. Now, after that, there were some struggles, a little bit. But in the second half, sure enough, Carson Wentz came along and made some plays. That throw to Nelson Aguilar, ladies and gentlemen, that was a definitive. I mean, perhaps in Nelson Aguilar's career, that may have been a definitive touchdown reception for him. I mean, I don't know if it. I mean, the off season and training camp, he was just having a quiet. I was harping about it on the Tyler Werner Show here. Like he's not. He didn't show us a whole lot. I know it was his rookie season. And it didn't look like he was going to show us much coming in this. I just had these feelings, and, I just don't see much in Nelson Aguilar. I'm not saying all of a sudden he's, put him on your fantasy team, start him, or whatever. I'm not saying, this is a Pro Bowl year for him. Here he goes. But, I'm interested in seeing where this goes now with the receiving core. Nelson Aguilar, in theory, should be one of the starting wide receivers. You got Dorial Green-Beckham. Huff, again, I'd be shocked if he's on this team next year. Especially, there's that one little, short pass to Josh Huff. Huff bobbles it, goes up in the air. Fortunately, wasn't intercepted. Nelson Aguilar goes and hauls the ball. So, you know what? You're not going to catch it. I will. I'm going to. So to me, that was a symbolic little play there in that game, where I'm just like, bench. Sit him down. Sit him down on the bench. Get him out of there.
Sit down! Sit down!
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Michael Kolick. And then you get, Dorial Green-Beckham, of course, and obviously Jordan Matthews having solid day. A couple drop balls, which, he'll make a nice diving catch, and then he'll drop a ball that he should catch. Nevertheless, he had a pretty productive game. 7 receptions for 114 yards and a touchdown. Could have had more, certainly, but Dorial Green-Beckham had 2 catches for 14 yards. Nelson Aguilar, again, 4 for 57. And he had that touchdown 35-yard reception. Again, perfect throw by Carson Wentz. Hits a guy in stride. And, I mean, this is Joseph Hayden. I mean, of all spots on the Cleveland Brown team that lacks talent, they do have a top 5 cornerback in the league, and Carson Wentz attacked him. It was fearless. This was his first professional regular season game. He had a limited preseason, essentially. He had the Tampa Bay preseason game, behind the offensive line that was a bit in shambles, and cracked rib, hairline fracture, yada yada. And basically, that was all the snaps he took in preseason. So, and again, I'm kind of going back here. I'm kind of jumping all over the place here. And it's hard not to. After a game like this. After a debut like this. Teddy Bridgewater goes down with that awkward knee injury. Hadn't missed a snap, throughout his entire tenure with the Vikings thus far. And then has a freak knee injury, non-contact. Well, we might need a quarterback for this season. They got Sean Hill, of course, who actually, who played for the Vikings yesterday, as I guess they're waiting to maybe wean Bradford in a little bit, since basically it was, all right, Eagles preseason is concluded. All right, Sam Bradford, pack your bags. You're going to Minnesota.
Goodbye.
And in return, again, it's kind of prefaced it in the intro to the show. All right, the Vikings, to me, maybe a wild card team this year. I feel like Green Bay reclaims that division. They had Jordy Nelson was lost for the season last year, and I feel there's no way that Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers don't win this division for a second straight year. I was shocked they didn't last year, but I mean they almost even made it to the Super Bowl, for crying out loud. Even still, but okay, Vikings perhaps a wild card team. Maybe, that results in a low 20s pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. In the first round. And then I get a 4th rounder in 2018. So, good work. And I feel, I get this sense that Carson's, and again, I was saying, all right, when they drafted Carson Wentz, forget Bradford. I don't need to see him here anymore. Carson, when you move up to number 2, you get the guy. You got, to get the guy. And that's what they did. And at that point, Bradford's tenure here became meaningless. And Bradford agreed, and he had that holdout. And I agreed with his reasons for the holdout. He wanted to go to another team, and I thought, yeah, let's move him,
Hit him up! Move him out!
That's what I was saying. Trade him. He doesn't want to be here anymore. They didn't do that. All right. Whatever. We were going to have Sam Bradford. as the starting quarterback this season, only for him to get traded next year anyways. Meanwhile, Carson Wentz sits on the bench, doesn't get his feet wet this season, holds a clipboard, whatever. And it's just like, to me, it just was kind of counterproductive. What do we say? Carson Wentz, he's going to make mistakes and yada yada. Well, have him make those mistakes this year. Let's get it out of the way, And, I hear all the, people, sometimes experts, you don't want him to get his confidence broken and whatever. Dude, it's the NFL. Come on. If he's going to have a confidence issue in his rookie season, then he's not the guy anyways. All right, I don't want to hear that. You moved up, okay, out of thin air, shockingly enough, Sam Bradford puts together, a decent preseason, and all right, Minnesota Vikings in a desperate situation. Hey, can we have Sam Bradford? We'll give you our first round pick in next year's draft and fourth rounder 2018. Howie Roseman takes the deal, and and whether he made the move or whether the Vikings approached Howie Roseman, nevertheless, the deal was done. And a couple draft picks back.
I mean, they're sexy, right?
And Howie Roseman, some people calling him Hallelujah Roseman, as Sam Bradford is gone, Carson Wentz named the starter. Supposedly Doug Peterson gives him a call while Carson Wentz is out hunting for geese, apparently.
Yippee-ki-yay.
And tells him he's the starter. And bada bing. All right, on to week 1 with limited practice time or whatever, and whatnot. And goes out and delivers. Take a quick break here, catch our breath a little bit. We got, like I said, we do want to, I do want to go down what I had game by game for the Philadelphia Eagles, the schedule prediction. Do it honestly. Basically just reiterate what I had for the rest of this. I had the, and I don't know, some people might be a little surprised. And this was after Carson Wentz was named the starter as well, so none of it would be skewed by whether Bradford would be starting or whatnot. So we'll discuss that on the end. Given that it is, football is back, regular season football. Go around the NFL with my top 5 thoughts of week 1, right here on the Tyler Werner Show.
I'll have some skirt steak, some brisket, little piece of that New York steak, a couple of them steak fingers, and a burger.
You've known for a long time that you were going to have to get real about fat or stay real fat. It didn't get that way by accident or by some outsider's doing.
Put some macaroni and cheese on there, too. Is there any chicken fried steak left?
Your weight just keeps creeping up or maybe even shooting sky high.
3 slices of pecan pie and 2 cups of coffee.
You have a decision to make. You know it, and so do I.
Yes, all right.
You need prescription diet pills or other diet aids to lose weight.
Okay, Rocco, pretend I'm the girl that you want to ask out on a date.
How about maybe you and I, maybe we go out together, get something to eat, I don't know, maybe laugh a little bit, who knows, I don't know, would you like to maybe, you and me go out together? What do you think? Would you like to?
You need to make more eye contact, and you sound way too nervous.
You want to hear me say it? You want to break me down? All right, I'm afraid. For the first time in my life, I'm afraid.
Having a tough time asking out ladies? You need to see Clubber Lang for a lesson.
Hey, woman. I've
bet you stay up late every night dreaming you had a real man, don't you? I tell you what, bring your pretty little self over to my apartment tonight, and I'll show you a real man.
Build confidence with the ladies like never before with Clubber Lang's dating services, the most highly recommended in all of the Delaware Valley.
I am ranked number 1. What? That means I'm the best.
What defines the perfect ball? It's not just about size when it comes to Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs.
I've handled dozens of balls over the past week. We prepare our balls over time. The texture of the balls is very easy to identify.
And that slow-cooked texture is one of the qualities that make Brady and Belichick's meatballs stand above the rest. But it's also Brady's unique rubbing process that only he has the authority to perform.
When I pick those balls out, to me they're perfect. I don't want anyone touching the balls after that. I don't want anyone rubbing them. To me, those balls are perfect.
Once the balls reached an equilibrium, we're down to the rubbing process.
Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs. When you're looking to make it a pasta night, we're doing a little catering. Like Brady would say, to me, those balls are perfect.
And we're back right here in the Tyler Werner Show. Monday after the Sunday win by the Philadelphia Eagles. Decisive win, 29-10. Led by Carson Wentz, franchise quarterback, as I think many of us believe he will be here for this Eagles team. Now, I mentioned earlier, I don't want to get too carried away, but I mean, it's a little hard not to, though. I mean, he came out and he showed us a lot of things.
I agree.
I mean, he showed a skill set. I'm sure, again, it's the Browns. And I'm not suddenly saying, oh, you know what? They're going to win the NFC East this year. They're going to the playoffs. I'm not saying that at all. But, and again, he's going to make mistakes this year, and you know what? Again, like I say, it's good. He's gonna learn more this year playing, learn more by doing, than sitting on the sideline while Bradford would be out there and maybe getting hurt at some point, and then Chase Daniel coming out and whatever. I like this, and I don't know. I liked it before they even kicked off or whatever. I liked it when the news first came out that Carson Wentz was going to be starting week 1. And essentially the rest of the season, unless he gets hurt or unless he just starts struggling immensely and maybe they want to sit him down, cool off. But no, I mean, I see some good things here. And again, this is not with world beaters at wide receiver. And, an incredible running game and a solid offensive line. I mean, there's that, one bad snap play where the ball gets snapped, off to the side and it was kind of low, and it was basically like a fumble play, and, Carson Wentz, he picks the ball up, which is, it's not always advisable to do that, but nevertheless, he picks the ball up and almost instantaneously shoots at Jordan Matthews, and if, Jordan Matthews would come back a little bit more to the ball. I mean, that's almost an incredible play there. I mean, Carson Wentz, he's got good eyes. He's got a great arm. He's pretty accurate. Can he be consistent? Time will tell. And it's only his rookie year. So, I'm not expecting a polished, finished product here this year. Nobody should. But the guy's got potential. I will say that. I was skeptical, of course, and I still am to some extent skeptical. Because again, I got to see this on a more consistent basis. And again, this is a year, no playoffs expected. Not even a 500 record is expected of me. Or out of me. By this, for this Philadelphia Eagles team. But in this game, I mean, he looked ready. He didn't look like he barely had a preseason. He didn't look like he only had limited snaps at North Dakota, in one AA competition. I mean, he looked like he belongs. He looked like he should be starting for this Eagles team. And to that, I say hats off for, Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman for making this happen. And I guess if some people want to say it, I mean, I don't wish injury, but hats off for an injury in the Minnesota Vikings quarterback spot and making this possible. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, I'm glad the Eagles did this. Carson Wentz, 22 for 37, 278. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Sacked twice for 8 yards. But again, in light of that, he made some plays with his legs, getting mobility that Sam Bradford didn't have, Nick Foles didn't have in recent years. Sanchez only had so much of. So check that off the list. That's important in this day and age. Not necessarily that you have to go and be Cam Newton and Russell Wilson and make big plays. It's certainly nice. A nice bonus quality to have. And at times, Carson Wentz may be capable of doing that. It's not especially, but mobility nevertheless, being able to slide in the pocket, slide out of trouble is important. And again, make throws on the run. Like Aaron Rodgers being so good at oftentimes. It's important. Now, so again, I mean, Carson Wentz, some of the throws he made, and it's great. It felt like he belongs and he should be starting. In that, in time, this guy, hopefully he'll be the franchise quarterback. Maybe, hopefully he'll be better, maybe a little more consistent than Donovan McNabb was.
I'm embarrassed.
I don't mean to embarrass, not to, put down Donovan, but, if only he, maybe McNabb was a little better. Maybe we would have had a super, I don't know. But Carson Wentz, maybe he can be better than Donovan McNabb. Time will tell. In the running game, Ryan Matthews, I hope he could stay healthy this year. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's all you can hope. But obviously, he is, the bread and butter running back here for this team. 22 carries for 77 yards. I wonder if last season he had 22 carries in any given. And again, this was with Murray wasn't playing, but I don't even think he did. But especially with this whole three-headed running back attack thing that didn't pan out too well, anyways, under Chip Kelly. course.
Thanks, guys.
But, he had a rushing touchdown, of course, but his longest run was only 7 yards out of 22 carries. It's a bit concerning. Not an awful day, but Kenyon Barner, 4 carries. It's 42 yards. He busted a 19-yarder at a 10.5 on 4 carries. I don't know. Maybe give him the ball a little more. I'm going to take a little heat off of Ryan Matthews, too. A little pressure off of him to get that many carries and hopefully stay healthy. Darren Sproles, 5 carries for 12 yards. Not too much there. Other than that, the receiving. Okay, because this is an interesting area of the Philadelphia Eagles. Because, it's a case of, you got, who's the 1 and the 2? Because, all right, Jordan Matthews is the slot guy, and was a rather successful target at that, along with Zach Ertz. 7 receptions, 6 receptions, respectively. Of course, Zach Ertz day-to-day with a bit of a, collarbone injury. It's like rib in the collarbone area, they were saying. A little bit week-to-week with him. Jordan Matthews, again, a couple drops here and there, but great. Other than that, statistically, great week 1 for him. Now, as far as the outside guys are concerned, all right, Nelson Aguilar, I think I get, for now, he's the one. Until the Eagles can, maybe find somebody better. Whether it be in free agency or in the draft, I don't know, maybe eventually they draft a guy better than what they have otherwise. Nelson Aguilar, that great touchdown throw from Carson Wentz, again, maybe a play that's going to be a spark for him to maybe build off of. Sometimes you just need like a big breakout play. Like, this is your moment, and then maybe you take the ball and you run with a little more, and you start being more productive. You start having game plans that incorporate you in them more. 4 receptions for 57 yards. Again, with that big 35-yard touchdown reception. Dorial Green-Beckham, 2 receptions for 14. Not much. And, let's see, Josh Huff. He's not even on here. He didn't even catch a ball, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, well, isn't that just dandy? So a goose egg for Josh Huff, week 1.
Sit down! Sit down!
Yeah, again, bench warmer. And we can thank Chip Kelly, of course, for that draft selection.
Was that like a wise-ass comment?
Anyhow. Alright, so that's that. At least for week 1. So, the way it's looking, I get, if Nelson Aguilar, the outside guy, of course, Jordan Matthews in the slot, Zach Ertz, Brent Selleck, tight ends, often 2 tight end sets. And then on the other side, Dorial Green-Beckham, thus far, I guess is the number 2. For now. And again, Dorial Green, he's got that size. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he can be a little more incorporate. We'll see what happens. But thus far, to me, I guess that's kind of what it looks like. Because Josh Huff, again, he's out there. He gets a short pass thrown his way that I don't know how he doesn't catch in this league. Bobbles it up, and, well, fortunately Nelson Aguilar's there. You know what? I'll take it. I'll catch the ball. Let's go over the defense. I mean, again, the story of this game, Carson Wentz. Again, Carson Wentz. But, you know, some credit to the defense. They, and special teams on those, you know, the punt, when they get it inside the 2, and then there's that snap. The Eagles get a safety out of the Browns. A wacky snap, and RG3's going back to get it. It's just, nope, too late. It's rolling out. Not, you know, safety. But, you know, Connor Barwin had a nice sack in there. Brandon Graham, of course, Fletcher Cox had a sack and a tackle for a loss. Brandon Graham, Connor Barwin, same thing. So we saw some good things out of the defense. Again, though, against an offense that has like no firepower whatsoever. So take that for what it's worth. Ronnie McLeod with the interception in this game off of RG3. And, yeah, I mean, they held the Browns at 10 points like they were kind of expected to do, and they gave up some big plays here and there, which is a bit disappointing, but nevertheless, they took care of business like they were expected to do. Now against the Bears next week, they got Alshon Jeffrey to cover, a little stiffer competition on Monday Night Football, but nevertheless, a solid outing, which was expected out of them. So for now, I mean, that for the most part covers this game for the Philadelphia Eagles in a nutshell. And we take it 1 week at a time this season for the Philadelphia Eagles, because again, in Carson Wentz, it's an evaluation year. That's the beauty of this. Next week, maybe he'll struggle more. I mean, they play the Seahawks defense later this year. They're going to see some other tougher defenses, tougher offenses as well. I mean, how are they going to fare against the Vikings defense? The Seahawks, the Packers, the Bengals, they got some tougher games down the stretch. And speaking of those tougher games, I'll go down the schedule on the other side. We've got another break here to get to. But again, I try not to get too over carried away, but it's hard not to be enthusiastic and impressed with what you saw out of Carson Wentz. And fortunately, an Eagles team that looked rejuvenated and inspired, which I felt this team was not a few weeks ago and throughout the training camp preseason. I just wasn't feeling much out of this team. But the trade of Sam Bradford is like one of the last off-season acquisitions last year by Chip Kelly to have been shipped out. And so I mean, at least to start, things look good in Eagleville right now, if you want to call it that. Yeah, and on the other side, go around the NFL. My top 5 thoughts. Week 1, with some other games that occurred, of course, and I will go down the rest of the Eagles' schedule and basically, well, not my thoughts today. I mean, I don't know if I'd change them or not yet. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'd be bumped up one game or so, but I will replicate what my predictions for each game were last week, and we'll go from there. So, with that in mind, we'll be right back after this on the Tyler Werner Show.
Attention parents. Is your under 18-year-old daughter being cyber-stalked by a man who identifies themselves as a grown adult male?
I want to meet you and fool around. Are you up to meeting tonight, hon? I think I would like to shower with you. We can do it in the shower, too.
If so, you need to contact Chris Hansen and Company to bust these online cyber-stalkers.
How are you tonight? Why don't you have a seat there and get comfortable for that? I guess you're going to tell me next that this is the very first time you've done something like this.
Chris Hansen and the Dateline crew will take care of it. Contact us, and we will put an end to the cyber stalking that your daughter is experiencing.
Well, there's something you got to know. I am Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and we're doing a story on computer predators.
Busted! Hi there, I'm Hank Hill. Well, I'd like to tell you what Strickland can do to meet your energy needs. You see, at Strickland, the customer comes first. It's kind of interesting. The word customer begins with CU. Well, we don't see you as just another sale, but as a member of our team. I thought you might enjoy 7.5 gallons of pure premium propane. Strickland Propane, the customer comes first.
And yes, that music, ladies and gentlemen, signals the return of Top 5 Thoughts around the NFL. Week 1 edition, of course. As football is back. Isn't it great to say Week 1 in the NFL? And so here we go. Top 5 Thoughts around the NFL. Starting with number 5. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating division rivals the Atlanta Falcons 31-24. In particular, Jameis Winston having a big day, throwing for 4 touchdowns. Big important division win to start off for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hard not to, can't complain about that if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. The only team to win out of that division this week, too. So, starting out of the gate on the right footing. Year 2 for Jameis Winston. Number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs come back and beat the Chargers in overtime. I believe at one point they were down 21-3, 24-3, or something like that. And they get the job done. They come back and they get a much needed division win as well. I mean, it's early on, so I don't know if to say much needed. But nevertheless, a solid division win that you're happy to take to start the NFL season. And the Chiefs come back and win in overtime. Number 3. How about this comeback? The Oakland Raiders, ladies and gentlemen, they were down. They were getting blown out by the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. They come from behind and shock the Saints, beating them 35-34. Heartbreaking loss if you're a Saints fan, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll see some experts out there thought, this team, maybe this Oakland Raiders team, they take the next step this year, and maybe they enter the playoffs. Maybe they get a wild card spot. We'll see. But it's an interesting, definitely an interesting team, the Oakland Raiders right now. Number 2, the Denver Broncos. They hang on to beat Carolina on Thursday Night Football, 21-20. Super Bowl rematch, Super Bowl 50 rematch Got to that 50 in there. So it was a big Super Bowl if you think about it. Cam Newton, against that Denver defense, just not the easiest time does he have. No more Peyton Manning, of course, quarterback. Not like he had a whole lot to do with the success of the Denver Broncos last year. But nevertheless, that Denver defense making some plays as they do. Didn't hold them to as little points as they had before, but despite that, Denver is founded on their defense and running game with C.J. Anderson in there. Smash mouth team. And they start off on the right foot. Number one, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to preface it by saying no Tom Brady, no Rob Gronkowski, no problem. As the New England Patriots defeat the Arizona Cardinals 23-21 and get their again. No Tom Brady. This many people wrote this off as like, Patriots lose this game. Credit to Bill Belichick. I know there are a lot of haters out there. And I know there was a missed field goal that maybe had played a big role, obviously, in the outcome of this game. But still, I mean, you didn't have Tom Brady at your disposal. And, of course, Rob Gronkowski. But, I mean, Julian Edelman, focal point of this offense. LeGarrette Blount, power runner. They took care of some business with Jimmy Garoppolo under center. Drafted a couple years ago, and, a chance for him to showcase himself until Tom Brady comes back. And I have to think Tom Brady was at home, as they were saying, and was proud of what he was seeing out of his team.
To me, those balls are perfect.
Yeah, maybe he was indulging in some Brady and Belichick meatballs, as we like to advertise here on the Tyler Werner Show with Bill Belichick, of course.
I've handled dozens of balls over the past week.
But man, credit. I know people don't want to give up, but credit to the Patriots for beating the Cardinals team without Tom Brady and without Rob Gronkowski. I would have thought, and again, it was at Arizona, Patriots lose this one. Not the case. Patriots win 23-21. And if you're a Cardinals fan, you got to be a little disappointed in that. Having played the Patriots in an advantageous position of the season and not getting the job done, especially after a year last year going 13-3. But it's week one. Week one obviously can be rather unpredictable. I mean, that's just sometimes the nature of the beast. But it does feel good. It feels great that football's back. And I don't even know, like, even whether or not the Eagles, came out and played as well as they did yesterday. It just feels great to have football back.
I agree.
Yeah, Sal Palantonio agrees, of course. As I'm sure you agree if you're listening to this edition of the Tyler Werner Show. Thank you for listening. We're not quite done yet, though. I wanted to go down, basically reiterate what I reiterated when I was recording last week's edition of the Tyler Werner Show. That would never, matriculate for whatever reason, if I could use that word. It would never come to fruition, as sometimes programs just have issues. And I don't like that when they do. And especially when it comes to talking right here on the Tyler Werner Show. And speaking of it, my whole soundboard just kind of reshuffled itself in an odd format. I don't like that. But anyways, I'm gonna go down the schedule here. I had the Eagles beating the Browns week 1, as I'm sure many of us did. I had them losing to the Bears at Chicago coming up next week. And I still do. I mean, again, this is more about me reiterating the schedule, like what I had originally. So I'm on record as having an original prediction, or at least giving what was my original prediction. But yeah, I mean, the Bears losing, a little more hungry this week to bounce back, and but anyhow, I had that as a loss. I had the Steelers, of course, as a loss. So the Eagles losing that game to the Steelers, which make them 1-2, and then after only 3 games, the Eagles had their bye week. So a rather early bye week.
What the hell?
Yeah, one of those early teams that have a bye. So they come off the bye week and beat the Lions at Detroit. Even up their schedule 2-2. I was a little surprised that the Lions beat the Colts. I don't know how good they are, but I haven't. I entering this season, I haven't had high expectations for them. And then the next week, the Eagles are to go on the road to face the Washington Redskins. And I had the Eagles as a loss there, which would make them 2-3. And this is where schedule gets a little difficult for them. I had them losing then to the Vikings. Bradford, of course, might be starting then. Of course, if he isn't hurt or something. And so, okay, that would put them 2 straight losses. It would put them at 2-4. And then on the road at the Dallas Cowboys, I believe I had them losing that 2-5. I had them upsetting the Giants, I believe 3-5, and then Falcons then beating the Eagles next week, making them 3-6. And this is where the Eagles struggle. They would beat the Seahawks, or I'm sorry, they would lose to the Seahawks 3-7. They'd lose to the Packers 3-8. They'd lose to the Bengals 3-9. End the losing streak. Beat the Redskins at home 4-9. They would go on. They would beat the Ravens. I believe I had it at 5-9. Lose to the Giants in a revenge situation for the Giants. Blackout game as well. So that would make them 5-10, and then I had them beating the Cowboys to end the season at home and finishing 6-10. That's essentially what I had in my prediction last week. And I again, we're 1 week in, obviously, and it would be it'd be an easy thing to say. Oh well, maybe they'll win this game now. Maybe they're a little better than we thought. Wait and see how things unfold. But I mean, I won't lie. I mean, maybe they'll win 7 games now. I don't know. It all remains to be seen. But in all fairness, my initial prediction for this Eagles team before any of these games happen, 6-10. Which, again, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it'd be a little concerning if they finish 4-12, 3-13. That would concern me a little, because I don't think they're that bad, and I don't think many others out there think they're that bad either. But that's in a nutshell what I have right now. But again, it's week 1. We roll along here, and it's great to have football back. So coming up, Monday Night Football, it will be the Chicago Bears hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. And let's see how the secondary can handle Alshon Jeffrey. Obviously, receiving threat. Jay Cutler. I could see the Eagles defense making some plays here. And it will be week 2 here for the Eagles, for Carson Wentz. Another chance to shine. And I could see him. I mean, the Chicago defense, I don't know how. I don't see a whole lot in this Bears team. But it'll be interesting to see. I don't know. Initially I had it down as a loss. I still have it as a loss this weekend in a close one. But a Bears team coming off of a tough loss, I'm thinking at home, bounce back and beat the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see, though. We'll talk about it on the Tyler Werner Show, as always. As the Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson era has officially begun here, and started off on the right foot with a 29-10 victory against the Cleveland Browns. Good deal. And Harry Roseman, of course, looking like a hero right now in the Delaware Valley.
I mean, they're sexy, right?
So with that in mind, we'll close down this edition of the Tyler Werner Show. Thanks for tuning in as always. Facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show. Encourage you to like it. Get in on the discussion. Post comments on the video posts there. And keep the ball rolling here with discussing Philadelphia sports. Right here on the Tyler Werner Show as always. Thanks for tuning in. We will talk to you next time.